I've had a lot of people say to me, well, I don't ever pay anything. There are a couple items that will be on Advantage plans that are going to be zero, but everyone's going to pay. I could take my home and I can have Geico and American Family and State Farm and Farmers. They all look at my home and give me a rate. I guarantee it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, it'll be different.
Yeah, and health insurance is no different.
If it's the same coverage, why would there be different prices? Let's hop into the topic, Dad. Why you may be paying a different price for Medicare than maybe your friends or your neighbor or whoever.
Yeah, well, there's several different reasons people pay different premiums. Let's go through all of them. They're all important, but first one would be people that are high income. Anyone that is high income is paying more for their Medicare B. Now, you do not have to pay more for your supplemental plan whenever you have one of those because of high income, but you'll pay more for B, and you also pay more for your drug plan. And so that's the first thing. Now, let's talk about that. How's that happen? Well, every year, Medicare establishes what the cost is going to be for Part B and, of course, drug plans. And so what they do is they look at our income, and that income determines how much we pay. So this year, 2026, the government's looking back at 2024. And when they look back, they're looking at modified adjusted gross income, which if you're not familiar with that, it's line 11 plus line 2A. Line 11 plus 2A becomes the number that determines—
On the tax form 1040.
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
on the 1040. Sorry about that. So the IRS lets Medicare know what that modified adjusted gross income is. And so Medicare sets thresholds. This year's thresholds for single filers is $109,000 or less, no additional surcharge. Married filing a joint return, $218,000 or less. Again, no additional surcharge. But if we're going to be above those amounts, then we're going to pay more money for our B and our D. So there's 5 different levels. We won't get into the details of those. But the point is, if I'm above 109 as single, above 218 as a married couple filing a joint return, I'll pay those additional amounts. And they're going to vary anywhere from $90 a month upwards to about $550 a month. And so that's the first reason people will pay more. Just because they're high income.
And so I was surcharge.
Yeah, the surcharge.
High income folks.
That's right. So the surcharge is called an IRMA. It's an acronym that stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amounts. And right now, I think about 15 to 20% of people have IRMAs. Okay. So substantial people, they do. Now, what can happen with folks when they have a life-changing event, which is a death, a divorce, a marriage, work stoppage, or work reduction, then maybe their numbers are different. So if I'm starting Medicare or I'm on Medicare in 2026 and they're looking back at 2024, but I retired in 2025 or I retired this year, then we can appeal the IRMA. We can ask them, tell the government, don't look back because this life-changing event affected my income. I'm making less now than I was back then. But people do have to go through the process of appealing the IRMA. As our clients, we help them do this all the time. Be glad to help that. If the income stays up, you're going to continue to pay IRMA. I tell people all the time, it's a great problem to have. Sure. They're not taking all of it, but they're going to take some of it. So that's probably one of the reasons that people—
So if you have high income, you're going to pay more.
High income, you're going to pay more. So that's a given.
What about people? So I'm going to throw some scenarios out and kind of let you speak to these.
Sure.
So let's say you're both on a plan. Well, let's back up a minute. Let's say somebody's like, I'm not paying anything for Medicare.
Right.
Talk to that.
Yeah, I will.
That's probably not true, but whatever. So I'm not, and somebody's saying, well, I'm paying $350 a month. What's likely going on there?
Right, for sure. And this conversation is probably most common than even the IRMA. But I want to mention the IRMA because that is an issue. So that one is because people that have an Advantage plans are normally paying a very low or no premium. Okay. And because of that, what happens is they may be talking to someone that decided not to be covered by an Advantage plan. They wanted to be covered by original Medicare, and they have a supplemental plan. Now, both of them are paying for their Part B. Okay. So even people that are high income that are on Advantage plans are still paying that IRMA. Yeah. So we cannot escape.
Or anyone. Everyone's paying.
Yeah, exactly right. Everyone's paying it. So
Unless
right now,
you had maybe Medicaid and had some state assistance.
That's right. Yeah, you'd have to be on one of the Medicare savings programs, qualify for Medicaid to avoid paying Part B. So point is everyone's paying for their Part B. Let's just keep it simple. Right now, the majority of people pay the $202.90 a month. Okay. So both scenarios we're paying that. But when it comes to Advantage plans, again, usually zero, low, no premiums that they have to pay for that because instead of paying a premium, they pay as they go. Mm-hmm. Folks that stay in original Medicare and get a supplemental plan, they are paying a monthly premium for that. If depending on where they are, it's average probably for a G plan right now is about $150 a month average. I pay more than that because some states are higher. But an N plans right now probably average about $100 a month or so. And so instead of having to pay as they go, they've opted to transfer some of the risk of the gaps in Medicare to an insurance company, and to have that privilege to transfer the gaps, you're going to have to pay a premium, so you're not responsible for those. So that is probably the most common reason. Now, what happens, and I know people had this conversation. I'm on Medicare, so I know how it's the big topic. And those that have no or low premium will say, well, why on earth would you do that?
Yeah, it kind of makes the people having a supplemental plan feel dumb.
Oh, exactly.
Why am I paying all this money for it? And you get to go to the gym, and or something like that.
And so, hey, I know that conversation happens, and so I personally think both are fine. Everyone's different. We have to decide what's important and not important. Some people, the most important thing is their monthly premium. Other people, that's not the biggest deal.
They'd rather have freedom to see every doctor they want to see.
Yeah, exactly right. So they have the flexibility of doctors, pre-authorizations by the insurance company, lifetime plans, and so they're willing to pay a premium for that. And I always remind people that are on subs, don't forget, you can't go to the gym at zero cost. And yes, you don't have a plan that covers hearing aids, but you do have a plan that allows you to go to any doctor that takes Medicare. No pre-authorizations, a hassle with the insurance company. So you are getting something for it. It's not a waste of money.
Yeah, and if everything goes wrong, your out of pocket is hardly anything.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's a $283 deductible, 100% coverage after that.
Yeah, very minimal. But everyone's going to pay. Either you pay as you go, or you pay a premium, and you're pretty well done. But that is the normal reason when people say I don't pay anything. Now, I want to add this. I've had a lot of people say to me, "Well, I don't ever pay anything." Well, that's because you never used it. And there are a couple items that will be on Advantage plans that are going to be zero. Basic labs, typically a primary care doctor, you can see it at a zero copay. But everything else, you're not going to the hospital for free. You're not going to get an MRI for free. You're not going to skilled nursing for free. It's just those kind of things are not going to happen. But what also people forget, because if they're on Social Security and that Part B premium is coming out of their monthly check, they also forget about that. But you are paying to be on any kind of a plan, because Advantage, you have to be on A and B, and subs, you have to be on A and B. So everyone certainly is going to pay something. Another reason that some people may be paying more is you may be someone's on an N plan and another person on a G plan.
Yeah, well, so let's talk about that. So let's say two people are like, I'm on a G plan, I'm also on a G plan. Let's say they're similar in age. Yep. Because obviously, if somebody's older on like a supplement, like a plan you're in, they're probably going to be paying more than someone who's younger. That makes sense. Right?
It does.
But maybe they're similar age and they're paying a pretty drastic difference, 50, 60, 70 bucks a month. What would you say to that?
Well, it's typically because the person that is paying less for their G than the other, and again, we're saying they're in the same state, right? So it's because the one paying lower probably has reshopped it, as we encourage people to do every 2-3 years. In fact, we'll help people do it all the time.
Sure.
So they've shopped it and they've kind of stayed on top of the market. Other people just don't pay much attention to it. They love their insurance. They just keep paying. It's no different than really homeowners insurance and auto policies. If you don't watch it, those things start creeping up. And so some people stay on top of it, and they'll reshop it to make sure they are getting the very best price they can in their area. Others let it ride.
Why would if it's the same coverage, why would there be different prices?
Well, the reason is because every company is going to establish their premiums a little differently. Medical loss ratios matter. The amount of customers they have in one particular area. The margins they want to have, all kinds of things. And I kind of give a silly illustration, but it's true. I could take my home, it's old, built in 1915, and my roof is probably 10 years old. And I could take my home and I could have, Geico and American Family and State Farm and Farmers. They all look at my home and give me a rate. I guarantee it's not going to be the same.
They'll all be different.
Yeah, same home, same age of home, same roof, same everything, but different rates. And it's because those companies have actuaries that set those numbers, and they look for different things. That's all. And health insurance is no different. Same coverage on a G. A G is a G is a G is a G, but different rates for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just insurance.
Yeah.
We can insure a life, and there's going to be different.
Yeah, I
premiums.
mean, every life insurance company, it's the same amount of coverage, $1 million or whatever it is. It's always going to have a different premium. So.
Exactly right. So the people that are paying more, maybe they have not shopped it, and so encourage
Can you
folks to do
speak
that.
to like the book of business or pool of business? I know we've talked about that for years, but for those that don't know,
Yes, yeah. When we talk about getting a supplemental plan, everyone, when they get one, they're going to go into a group. In our business, we call that a block of business. So you go into this group, and we have found through the years that typically a company that's going to have a larger market share will give us more stable rates over the long haul. Why? There's more policyholders, therefore the risk of cancer and joint replacements and everything going on within that block is spread out to more people. Now, the last couple of years, they've all gone up. Small blocks, big blocks, they all have. But I think as we see the inflation get more under control, get away from all the overuse of the plans that happened after COVID, I think we'll see that those companies that have a larger market share will provide our clients some more
Stabilize
stability.
again.
I think that will happen.
they've
It's just
been
the
a
way it
mess.
works.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works. Law of large numbers. That's insurance, and I feel like that we'll see that.